call this meeting to order dated December 6th, 2022. Roll call.
Trustee Ott.
Here.
Trustee Dallison.
Here.
Trustee Hart. Trustee Moreland.
Here.
Trustee Zazaro.
Here.
Mayor Parkinson.
Here.
5 present absent.
All right, would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, does the board have any conflicts of interest to announce at this time?
Yes. Items 5 and 6.
Okay, we will ask you to recuse yourself.
Brought a book.
You brought a book this time? No more Snickers in the lobby? All right, I invite members of the public for general public input. If anybody would have any items to discuss with the board, please step forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
I need way more than that.
I'll gavel you.
Just don't hit me in the head. My name's Paul Pavich. I live on Bayfield Parkway. I work at Pine River Shares, and we're in the middle of our food drive, fun drive, till the end of December. I just wanted to share a couple things. 2 of the schools have done drives for us. BIS and BPS, and at BPS they counted how many items they had, and it was 1,553. It's astonishing. The Baptist kids, is that? Yes. The kids at the Baptist church they got, I don't know, maybe 4 boxes of food for us, and they raised $3.15. It's really nice to see the kids working with us. I mean, it gives you some hope for the future. Today, we had a bunch of cans come in, and one of the football players from Bayfield High School and a couple other guys came, and he said, here's what we're going to do, and bang, 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 and they got it done. So any time that you're starting to feel like, whoa, I don't know about this generation, they're with us. That's all.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to wait and see if we have. Do we have any public comment on anyone on Zoom?
He's connecting to it.
Okay, so that's with you guys? Okay. All right. Seeing none, we will move on. Did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Ott.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Hart. Sorry about that. Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Zazaro.
Yes.
Mayor Parkinson.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, at this time, we'd like to welcome Pine River Shares for a presentation.
Do I have to stand up there?
Yes.
Yes.
For the recording.
I'm terribly bashful. My name's Pam, and I'm with Pine River Shares. We're over there at 658 Southeast Street. And I wanted to come to talk to you today just briefly about kind of where Pine River Shares is. If you don't know, we build healthy, thriving communities in the Pine River Valley, from Vallecito down to Navajo. 275 square miles, 16,000 people. Jeremy, why are you over here? Didn't I talk to you over there? I was like, talked to the Ignacio Town Board 2 weeks ago. And so we serve this big area. And in fact, we started in this room 10 years ago in November in this room. We invited, we put a call out to the community. This was before we called ourselves Pine River Shares, and said, come and talk to us about what's happening in the Pine River Valley that impacts your ability to thrive. And we had about 35 people come. And we fed teenagers, and they were in that room back there, and we had childcare, and they were somewhere else, and we had in here, and we papered every wall on what people thought was happening in the world. This was the time when Dylan Redwine, if some of you remember, that was when that was happening. And I thought we were going to hear all about that. But what we didn't hear, what we heard about was access to affordable, healthy food From the very get-go, we started hearing about that. So Pine River Shares has been working on food for a very long time. And we can't just look, the reason we look at food is not because there's not enough food out here. We do technically live in a food desert because of the access of grocery stores. However, it's the widening economic disparity that's driving that. So it's like when people can't pay the bills, we've got free food, so they'll come to our place first. Many of you might, I don't know if y'all know this, that used to be the food pantry, right?
Yep.
So the food pantry in Bayfield Town Hall was right there. And not too many years, they said, well, y'all take that over? Y'all take that over? So before COVID, we had taken over, I think it had to skip over to the Life Church, and then Chris came from Life Church going, we can't do this. So we took it over, and right before COVID hit, we were serving about 700 individuals every month food in the Pine River Valley. That includes backpack programs and everything else. Enough that those numbers were growing and growing at that time. So what we decided to do was look to our heritage, look in our past to find out we live in an agriculture area. Why do we have rising food insecurity? So we studied the agriculture history of this area. And we're able to see what people were growing all up and down the Pine and how they collaborated together. We had 4 grain mills. We had 8 creameries. So people were working together, growing food at home. Nobody had big gardens. They just had food at home, growing gardens at home. But they shared the means of production, processing, and preserving. So we decided, let's do that. And so we created this plan that's called the Field to Fork Plan. Over 250 people from the Pine River Valley and all of these little communities participated in building this plan. And then COVID hit. And so now we're seeing, oh God, the grocery stores, the shelves are empty, and it really felt like an imperative that we needed to start implementing the Field to Fork Plan. And that's when we started digging ground in the back of the Pine River Shares building where we are today. That garden produces over 1,000 pounds of food that we turn over we share out to communities every week. So when COVID hit and the ARPA money came, Matt called us, our former mayor, and said, what do y'all need? Talk to us about what are some of the needs in the Pine River Valley. And we talked to him about putting in the infrastructure for our food system. So all that Field to Fork plan, we just looked in there and said, what's the infrastructure requirements that we can make a big legacy investment in food system in the Pine River Valley. It was fun to do it. It was a crap shot. We just thought it's fun. Okay, we're doing this. Now we know what it costs. We never thought in a million years that we'd get any money out of it, but the unthinkable happened, and we did. So we were given $390,000 to invest in this implementing a food system, putting in the food system. So just wanted to let y'all know we're doing this. Our goal is to keep all this money right here in the Pine River Valley. We don't want it going outside of the Pine River Valley. We're putting in 4 community food sites. We're working with Field to Fork teams in Vallecito and Forest Lakes and Allison here and Ignacio, putting in community food sites, and we're looking at means to increase community food production. And ways that all these sites will have community kitchen utensils, things to do preserving, food processing, and sharing those things, as well as growing food. We're putting in orchards in every one of these communities, trying to lift up the whole food system and work towards food security. So anyway, I'm sure I'm past my 5 minutes, but that's kind of what I wanted to share with you guys, and I'll tell you what we're up to, and watch us grow and think of ways that we might be able to partner together.
So Pam, can you you said before COVID you were feeding, you said roughly 700 families a week?
A month, 700 a month. And
so what are you seeing now?
No, 700 a week, right.
A
And it's
week.
3,000. And we thought after COVID, so it went up to like 3,000 right in 2021. And then we thought, okay, everybody's going back to school, it'll go down. It didn't go back down. It dropped a little bit, and Sarah ran the numbers. She said it's right before I came up today. Then it's running between 2,800 and 3,000, 2,800 and 3,000. We just added in Ignacio backpack project. So that program got dropped during COVID. So you had the highest free and reduced lunch rate in the nation is in Ignacio. And they didn't have a program, so we rolled that on. And we have mobile pantries, so we're all up and down the Pine. We have a mobile pantry in Allison, so it's not just here. One of the things that we did, that's cut our numbers back a little bit, when gas went up, it costs a lot for people to get here, so we try to get the food to them. All last summer we did mobile hunt. We went Vallecito, Forest, we went every month. We were in all these different communities of pop-ups, and it nearly killed our team. It nearly killed us. We'll never do that again. But with gas so high, we felt like we needed to do that, not ask people to come to us. So now what we've done, still with gas high, is encouraging people to pack for 2 weeks at a time. So we're doing it's the second and fourth Monday here, and it's the second Saturday in Ignacio, and backpacks are weekly. We do a lot of food delivery. We deliver all the way down to San Brito, Allison, and those parts in between, even over the county line. Into that, because it's still a part of our watershed. So it's, pretty widespread. But I guess it's important to say that we don't want to just we don't want bigger food pantries. I mean, it's not healthy food, it's not good. We want to create food here. We want to create enough food to grow for the 16,000 people that live here. We're aiming to increase food production, not just by growing food at home, but by finding means to actually produce a lot of food, grow it year-round, have contracts with our local restaurants, with our schools. We're wholesaling that stuff. We want to sell to you. We want to make all the tomatoes and the herbs that go in your Bloody Mary mix, so it's locally sourced. And we can do this. We can do it with Paul's sauerkraut. You know, there's a lot of people we can start to do this with, but it starts with the production. There's a lot of energy for this. That grow dome that we put out there, paid for by the community. We didn't write a grant for that. It was all paid for by community members because people are interested. We can see this. We can see a future in building this. A vital community food web with our food in the center. We're not talking about feeding Durango. We're not talking about feeding Archuleta. We're talking about feeding the people that live here. It's cool, y'all. It's cool. All right? Any questions? Anything
The
else?
board have any questions or comments, or? No, we appreciate everything you do and your team. Thank you for being here. All right, we're going to move on to the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the November 15th minutes? We do have a recommendation from Attorney Goldman in there. I don't know if you wanted to clarify anything or,
Yeah, my recommendation was met.
Okay.
I think the minutes are complete. There's one question mark in there still. I'm not sure if anyone can clarify what that question mark is on page 2 of the minutes. What should be in place of that question mark? Page 2, yeah, page 2 at the very top. There's a question mark there. I don't know if that should be replaced.
Oh,
I didn't take notes on that, so.
that's whoever the first name was, they didn't get caught.
oh. Yeah, I don't, on that, right there?
Yeah, well, it says Blanchard. Isn't that a last name?
Oh,
Blanchard? So
it
the
was the Blan-
question mark is who's
It's just the first name.
It's the first name of the person.
I was on the wrong page.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
No, it says phase 8 question mark here.
Clarify the modifications
Oh, I'm looking at something else.
5C, 5B, and Clover Meadows Phase 8 question mark error memo.
Oh,
I don't know,
there's one on, a
I'm not
question
sure what
mark
that
on.
is.
I think it's a rogue question mark, but, because it was an error memo that came out. I don't know what the question,
Clover Meadows Phase 8.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe that just needs to be deleted.
Okay.
In the minutes, so as not to confuse anybody who's reading it 10 years from now.
So I would entertain a motion with Attorney Goldman's recommendations. Let's nix that question mark. And then we'd also want to include Katzo's memo in the minutes.
So Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting November 15th minutes with the change recommended by Town Attorney Goldman, with the change of removing the question mark on page 2, and the change to include Katzo's updated, just letter.
Memo.
Letter.
I would just say attached to the
Attached
minutes
to the
as,
minutes.
you know, with her,
With her
versus
letter,
making any
attached
changes
to
to
the
the
minutes.
minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Roll call.
Trustee Ah,
Yay.
trustee Jellison,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, moving on to our department reports. Katie, would you like to highlight your report?
Yes, so, all of a sudden my computer froze up. Seems like that's our deal here. Come on. So we had the open enrollment for health insurance, and that was closed on the 18th of November. Looks like everybody got signed up, and then and the new thing with this year is This insurance year is that each employee, if they sign up for an HSA eligible account, they'll receive $50 per pay period, and in which health insurance is deducted, so about $1,200. And we do have 16 employees that are now signed up for a high deductible account. The Mill Street Gateway decor, after we remove the sign, we do have plans to do some artwork to honor the Ed Moreland, Joe Stevenson, and then the creator of the actual flower bed itself at some point. But right now, I'm just put flowers in there, put a little harvest meme in there, and then we just put some solar lights in there for now. But hopefully, at some point, we get more of a collaborated Christmas decor over Mill Street. Of course, I appreciate Public Works putting up the tree here in Town Hall, and also A to Z Electric has also assist us at free and no cost to put up our decor on Mill Street. So anyway, this Saturday, the Cinnamon Heights has their annual HOA meeting. Nicole, myself, and Jeremy, and the engineer will attend. The engineer will probably attend by cell phone to just talk about where we're at with Cinnamon Heights. As you may recall, we did have our first interview for our grant request to DOLA. We think it was a promising presentation. We should know maybe later this week if we'll be invited to actually apply. The most important thing basically for the HOA property owners, especially lots 1 through 11, is that those lots, typically you have a townhome which has really got a tight property line, and then after you build the townhomes, you basically do a final plat to where the townhomes actually are. Well, a lot of those townhomes, lots 1 through 11, were built outside of the property line. So we'll be talking to the homeowners, the homeowner association, and asking them for other contributors to sign in to replat for their benefit, the lots 1 through 11, not the other lots to the north. And then also, it would be a replat at the time the town finishes building the townhomes as well. Same issue, when you have such tight property lines and you're building, those types of townhomes, you want to make sure you replat at a later date. So we're going to have that discussion with the HOA. And the HOA fees for non-improved lots went from $3 to $5. And so we will typically, I just pay that all up front in January instead of the once a month payment. So just, if you're aware, if we do start building, the only time the improved HOA goes into effect is actually when their CO is available. So anyway, and that may not be until 2024.
Any questions for Katie? All right, Ryan, would you like to give the highlights of your report?
Good evening. To start off with Parks and Rec, what's new, Andrea Carroll is our new recreation coordinator, and she started on December 5th. So she's only worked the past 2 days, but we're really excited about her impact, her energy, what she brings to the town, and kind of excited, moving forward for the future with what we can accomplish. Basketball registration ended on Sunday for kindergarten through 4th grade, so we're working on putting teams together. We have about 115 kids registered for that program that will start January 2nd. Adult indoor soccer, that'll be our next adult program. That's coming up also in January. We have registration for that running through December 18th. And then after youth basketball, we'll go right into youth volleyball, which season will start in February. So a lot of upcoming programs. As far as parks and facilities, The guys knocked out a couple of our capital improvement projects for this year. We A to Z did the rewiring of the north softball field scoreboard that was out of operation, so that should be ready to go come spring for Pine River Youth Baseball and softball. They also finished the sprinkler projects on the south softball field, so that should provide better coverage for the entire outfield softball field. And then security lights have been installed at Little Pine Park. You might notice that's lit up now. So hopefully that kind of deters some of the after-hours activities that we were seeing there. We did meet together as a staff to kind of talk about illegal camping in the park, some of our unhoused population. We've noticed some tents and things popping up in our park, which we have dealt with a little in the past, but kind of with, what's been going on in Durango, we're just trying to stay on top of it and, be empathetic, but also, have a policy and all be on the same page. So I think we accomplished that through our meeting, and we'll just continue to monitor that situation. Coming up on the agenda, you'll, or you have noticed in the packet, Groundwork Studios has provided us a proposal for approval tonight for the revision of the park conceptual design for Joe Stevenson Park for 2023. And the Senior Center Durango decks is just about finished on the deck, the railing project. I think it's going to look really good once it's done. Hope to finish that up by Friday and get it inspected early next week. And on November 29th, Carrie coordinated a first on scene AED training with Upper Pine Fire for about a dozen participants at the Senior Center that I think was really worthwhile, and people seem to get a lot out of it. And they also checked our alarm system and the Knox box, and just kind of checking off all these things that, just making sure we're being safe and have a good operating facility. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Nope. We'll bring you back up in a minute.
All right.
All right, moving on to our financial agenda items. Do we have any public input pertaining to items 4A through C on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to our November disbursements. Did everybody get a chance to look at those?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the November disbursements as presented by the Finance Director.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Ogg,
Yay.
trustee Jellison,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Parkinson,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, moving on to our sidewalk quote and concrete pad adjacent to the Speedway. Katie, you want to kick
Yeah,
that one
this
off?
was kind of the end of my report. Ed Wilmot is the father of Jada. Regarding the Speedway murder incident. They have been putting out memorials during the summertime. And they have been asking for permission to do that. And we have asked them to put it up during the non-snow season, and when we get close to fall or snow, we just ask them to take it down. So they've been very accommodating to do that. Just recently, Ed did ask if they could put a bench up there at that corner. And if you look at the intersection, there's a handicap ramp that crosses over 160C, but it does not go east towards the Bayfield pedestrian, kind of the widening on Bayfield Parkway. And I did talk to CDOT. In order to put a bench or concrete or anything there, we would have to get a CDOT permit. And so it kind of looks like maybe we could do this in combination with a memorial that they would like to put up, is just seek an estimate and possible construction cost to put a sidewalk, to extend that sidewalk. And you've got some elevation there, so I want to make sure that, that especially for handicap ramp, that they can meet that without basically sliding into that intersection or rolling into that intersection. And then put a concrete pad, basically big enough to put a bench and possible memorials they would like to provide something for first responders because they really appreciate what they did for their daughter that night. Just asking basically to ask SGM to just get a quote, a possible quote for engineering. Obviously, they're going to get a permit, so a little bit of coordination with CDOT and also the possible cost for construction.
I think it would be nice, I mean, obviously the sidewalk is an issue there, but to have something a little more permanent for Jada instead of, the plastic flowers and stuff like that we're seeing. I think a bench would be nice there. I don't know.
Oh, no, I agree. That's part of my running route, and so I'd love to know more about, if a sidewalk could be there, because I know myself, others, I've seen people walking dogs in that road, and again, for the memorial, I think having a bench there would be really nice. So, yeah, I would love to see what this would entail, and to extend that sidewalk for sure, if it's possible.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to have SGM give us a quote for the engineering.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to request a quote from SGM for engineering and estimated cost for construction.
Second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our park master plan revision proposal.
So in 2018, Groundwork Studio did a conceptual park design for Joe Stevenson Park, which included relocating the rodeo grounds south of the wastewater treatment plant. We now know that the school district is not on board with that plan, so we've reached back out to Groundwork Studio, and they provided a proposal based off of our suggestions. They provided a proposal for it's about a 6-month plan to unfold for them to do a redesign of the park. So the 3 phases that we've kind of proposed, phase 1, well, initially we had a pre-proposal meeting with them so they could draw something up for us. And then phase 1, which will include what we're seeking tonight, which is approval by the Board of Trustees to approve the $12,380 bill for their services. And then in January, we would have a project kickoff meeting and the creation, and allow them to then create 2 park design concepts. So that's kind of phase 1, is basically kickoff and park design creation. And then phase 2 is mostly community outreach, which will be handled by town staff. So, we're looking to do a community outreach event in Bayfield, presenting the park concepts. Groundwork Studio will provide the big park concepts like we've had before. And they'll do 2 different designs. So we'll do a community outreach event. We're looking to conduct public surveys and voting by the public on the concepts. And then we would then bring the concepts and present those to the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees. So that's phase 2. And then after we gather that input, we would go back to Groundwork Studios and work with them to come up with a final concept for town staff review. And then we would ask them to also come up with a phasing plan and cost estimates. And then come back to you for the final concept approval. So we're targeting about May of 2023 to have that final concept done, which then would allow us, to go into budget season and, hopefully put some money aside for in-kind to go ahead and try and seek grants from GOCO or, other sources for 2024. So tonight what we're asking is, I guess, the approval of the $12,380 proposal from Groundwork to do the work.
I have a question. So when we initially got the plan or the concept for the park, we did this without having the information if the school or the rodeo would move, but we built this plan based on the rodeo moving. So are there any other hiccups that could come up from us doing this, making assumptions about things that then we put $12,000 into this and then we have to do this again? So I don't believe there are, but I'm asking because maybe that question should have been asked when we initially did this entire plan based upon not having that approval in
Yeah.
place.
There's nothing that I can think of at the moment, now that we're not involving the school district and we're not involving the rodeo grounds. I mean, this, I feel like is kind of a town, a town deal. So I don't feel like that's a concern this go around.
Okay.
It's mostly in our control. Obviously, going out and getting grant funding is not completely in our control, but, I think that GOCO will really like to see a well-developed plan, and they'll really like to see the community outreach piece of it, that we're really trying to give the community what they want, what they prioritize.
Okay, thanks for answering that question.
Any other questions or comments? Thoughts, feelings?
And this is a 2023 expenditure, it is not a 2022. And
Is
you
it-
budgeted $15,000 for that, just so you're aware of what you budgeted.
You saw me start to speak.
All right, then I would entertain a motion if the board is comfortable.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Park Master Plan revision proposal by the, is that the right one? By the original consult, I'm in the wrong
Yeah.
spot. aren't I? For $12,380.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Ah,
Yay.
trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro.
Yes?
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, at this time, I will go ahead and close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing. Trustee Ah,
See you in a
you
bit.
go read your book in the lobby. Just keep in mind, we will have a staff presentation. We will also have, the applicant is here as well, and then I will open it up for public input on this particular item. Hey, Ryan, do you mind? Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. All right, and I'll let Nicole go ahead and kick off the public hearing.
This has gone through quite a planning process, starting with the comprehensive plan amendment back in October 21. Annexation and initial zoning occurred in January 22. Then there was a sketch plan and preliminary plan February and April. And in May of 17, the board approved the phase 1 final plan plat, which is what's being amended, requesting to be amended tonight. So there's going to be beginning for this phase 1A final plat. What we look at in the final plat, and most of this did occur back in May, drainage, traffic, geotech, road construction, utilities, we get construction estimates, we go into the subdivision approving agreement with the developer, landscaping plans, lighting plans, warranty deeds, final plat, and final environmental clearances. So all of that has been completed to date for this property. What they're proposing to do is ultimately construct 81 single-family lots on a 35-acre piece of property. Their phase 1 originally was for 47 lots and 19.03 acres. They're asking tonight to rephase that into 3 phases instead of 1. So phase 1A would be 19 lots, phase 1B would be 10, and phase 1C would be 18. Their ultimate plan is to be consistent with the approvals for the overall design of the project and just break it up into smaller phases. So they're not asking to redesign the property, they just want to break up the phases. And then right now, phase 2 is 34 lots. We have yet to have conversations if they're going to be breaking that one up as well. They have a total of 6.4 acres of open space, which includes a small pocket park, detention facility, shared use path, and open space buffer. So this is the preliminary plan that was approved back in April. And so they're not, again, varying from the design of this plan. They're just breaking up how it's going to be developed on the site. And I will say, going back through the major subdivisions that Bayfield's done in the past, so Mesa Meadows, Dove Ranch, all of the Clover Meadows subdivisions, the Sunrise Estates, they've all had phase plans. So not one of them were developed all at one time. From my research, they've all been phased in. So it's not uncommon for a developer to want to do a phased approach for a project. So originally, back in April and May, when this was approved through preliminary and final, they were going to do 2 phases. So phase 1 is the purple and phase 2 is the orange. And so now they're asking to break phase 1 into 3 phases and then keep phase 2 right now to the side. So you can see the difference in the phases between the original and phase 1. It's the same area, they're just breaking it up. They've also submitted final plat. The plat that was in your staff report was not 100% accurate. They actually were shown 4 phases in phase 1, and they only doing 3. So the plat that I passed that to you tonight is the missing hot off the press plat that they actually official one. What they're proposing to do as part of phase 1 is connect Louisiana Drive and Mustang Drive, so they have both access points connected at that time. Install the southern detention pond just on the southwest corner of the project. They're also proposing to do extent of the plat area, so along the western boundary and the northern boundary to the edge of the phase, they're going to be installing themselves. They've also negotiated with all the neighbors on the west side to install a solid 6-foot fence on that western edge, adjacent to the Meadows subdivision. And they also have negotiated with the ranch to the north and east to do a no-time ranch fence along that north and east edge, similar to what they've already installed along the whole southern edge of the property. There's a few things that you see in part of your attachments is the subdivision improvement agreement, and that's really to spell out all of the development requirements, mainly pertaining to public improvements, and then we require certain securities in place, as well as other fees as part of the project. And so they've asked for a couple of concessions on that, and staff has been working closely with them as soon as today to try and finalize this for tonight's meeting. And originally, we're asking to not provide the as-built drawings for the improvements. What we do is once the project's in place, we want to get as-built surveys work of our utilities, sidewalks, streets, so we just know where those are located, especially utilities because they're underground. So having those as-built plans is into our GIS system. Because this is a private development, we do put it on the developer to pay for those costs. And so staff is not willing to waive that, so you can ask the board if you want to, but staff recommendation is to require the developer to pay for those costs because they're needed as part of the development process. Otherwise, we would not be able to do that. The collateral, we've been working closely with them, and as you saw on the red line, they previously asked to only put 100,000 for the collateral, but I'll let the applicant speak for himself, but we have negotiated back up to that 100% collateral with 50% contingency. For the phase 1A engineering cost, it would be just over $1 million for the public improvements. And we will continue to work with the developer once the board makes a decision on what that collateral will look like moving forward with this project. But we do ask that the board approve the requirement of 100% collateral. And then the Bayfield Parkway Clover Drive intersection improvements. In the main meeting, the board actually did allow the developer to only have to pay 10% upfront, which would be of the $9,996. They would only have to pay $999, and then they were allowed to tax the rest of it on facility stock, which would have been $111 a lot. We worked with the developer so that since the administrative part of that probably wasn't worth $111 a lot. And so the developer has now agreed to tack it, rather than tack it onto the facility slot, pay per phase. And so the 9,996 would be divided by the 81 units. And right now he's estimating 19, so that would be 2,344. Now, when he wants to do the other phases, they do have to come back for the final plat. So every phase is going to be back in front of you at the same type of meeting with the same subdivision improvement agreement, different numbers, but we're going to be giving one to each phase. And therefore, we put this in the phase 1A, and then the next phase is the additional for this item. Then water rights and impact fee. Back in May, our engineers had finished their report, because they had finished their report, and the proposal filled out the impact fee to, for the town to go and get water rights for the properties would be $102,000. And for phase 1, because at the time that our engineers did the analysis, they were only looking at 2 phases. Phase 1 would have been $59,000. So the developer, there's also some discussion about the PRID acres. The PRID shares on this property right now, and I might have Jeremy weigh in a little bit more on this, but they're not at the priority that we would like to see for municipal, so we would rather get the impact fee and go get higher priority shares. And therefore, the developer would like us to readdress that PRID share. There's been some information that's been given to him that it might be tied to municipal water already. There's a whole bunch of legal and technical information, but at this point, because he wants to move forward, he, as far as, again, he can speak for himself, but from our negotiations, he's going to move forward with what we're proposing tonight. And then if there's further analysis on the PRID shares, then he may come back to you for some changes to that future date. But for tonight, what we're requesting is that he would pay the amount that is recalculated by our engineers, so we don't have the actual amount tonight for just the phase 1A. So the phase 1, which is $59,000, will be reduced to phase 1A, and again, every time he comes in for another phase, he'll have to pay that. But what we're requesting is the water is, the cost is going up. And so instead of calculating every phase right now and having that as our report, we're asking our engineers, we're asking the board to approve that our engineers at each phase of each plat that comes to you, they recalculate that based on the current rate, so that the town is not stuck in a loss because we calculated this 5 years before the final plans have been implemented. So every time a phase comes in, we're asking that it gets recalculated for that phase at the current rates. So we're always paying only the current rates, or getting the current rates from the applicant. So again, we've had that conversation with the applicant, and then if there is a time where PRID shares can be investigated a little bit more, we're willing to look at that in the future and possibly come back for an amendment to that. And so findings, there's a few findings on this. Phase 1, again, it's still consistent with the annexation, the plat and the agreement, as well as the preliminary plan that was approved back in April. And with the conditions below, phase 1A final plat as submitted is consistent with the intent of the comp plan and the land use code. And so we have a few conditions in place that we would like to see. The first one is prior to the issuance, we just finalized the final plat. At the time I wrote this, in the staff report, I didn't have a corrected final plat, but now I have a more corrected, so I'll be going through that in more detail. And then any minor changes we'll work with the applicant on to get that recorded. And then prior to the issuance of any development permits, the subdivision improvement agreement and cost estimates shall be finalized and recorded. And so the red lines, you'll see that their attorney did blue lines, I did red lines. We're asking that you accept staff's comments as well as these minor changes, and I'll go through them again for you just for the record, to the subdivision improvement agreement. And then prior to the issuance of any excavation or building permit, they do need to apply for a state stormwater permit. Per the agreements with the adjacent owners, they do need to install both the 6-foot fence on the western edge as well as on the north and eastern edge of the entire property. And then per the minutes of May 17th, they do also also need to add a new stop sign at Hickory Ridge and Louisiana Drive. And so again, so I wanted to go through that subdivision improvement agreement. We're asking them to provide the as-built drawing, so that was in my red lines. The collateral to remain at 100% with the 15% contingency. And that's for phase 1A. That they, the developer pays for all of the infrastructure or the intersection improvements and does not push it onto the sell the lot, but in exchange, he only pays for the phase that he's currently developing. And then the same with the water rights, he pays for the phase that he's currently developing, knowing that that'll be calculated every time it comes back for a new phase approval. So, and he understands that right now those rights are going up in cost. And that is all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have of staff. And the applicant is present.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add on that PRID shares? Do you have any insider knowledge on that?
I think it gets just a little bit confusing when you start talking about PRID shares versus PRID acres versus Schroeder shares versus Los Pinos shares. So those are all just water amounts they're talking about. There has been some discussion that their PRID holds a PRID acre per industrial or technically indoor use per irrigable acres. Historically, that's not ever what we've evaluated for any of the water demand for any of these developments. We've went ahead, calculated irrigation shares, taken those into consideration with the priority of the water, and then actually had our water engineers come up with a demand per unit. And so that's the approach that we took over here. What we're asking is if they can provide more documentation that a PRID acre can be substituted for irrigable Schroeder share for the drive of this land. If they provide that information, we'd be happy to entertain it. But at this point in time, I really don't know what the PRID acres are, or have they been historically used in any of this developments that Bayfield.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Clear as mud.
Yep.
So I think just for your knowledge, we're moving forward with what our water engineers have done, but of course recalculated based on the phases. And then like Jeremy said, we'll entertain any other documentation they provide us in the future and possibly come back to you with new people.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. So, because I don't recall, in the original plan, were there 3 proposed retention ponds?
There's a few, I might actually have an engineer.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking is because since we're breaking this into phases, I know we have one pond in the southwest corner, because I saw that on the first phase, and I'm just wondering, is it just that pond supports everything that's being built, or does it also support phase 1B? Like, because if we do phase 1A, if phase 1B doesn't happen for a while, does that pond support what's already being put in place, just to make sure we don't have water flowing over into neighbors' homes or into neighborhoods or where it shouldn't be? So that's kind of what I was wondering with that, with the ponds. And then the other question I have, because I know this was I don't believe this was done correctly in my neighborhood, is the location of the utilities, because there's utility easements, at least in our neighborhood. And then I know my one neighbor wants to try to put in internet, and he'd have to dig up front yards because the utilities weren't placed in the easement between the sidewalk and the street. And so I think that's probably going to be a question I have at all of these, is to make sure that the utilities are placed in a manner that if something had to happen, it doesn't disrupt all the neighbors, if there's a location that's designated for that, because I feel like that's a fail, at least if that's what those easements were for, especially when you're required to plant trees in your yard, and then you have utilities under where tree roots are. So anyway, those are my 2 questions.
And I can answer utilities, so they are required to be in a utility easement, and so we have a front utility easement, we have side utility easements, and rear utility easements. And they do need to be located within those utility easements. I think in Mesa Meadows, not all of the fiber was available to be put in at that point in time, because that was 17 years ago. So things are a little bit different in terms of fiber today than they were when Mesa Meadows was used. But We have easements as well as installation.
Okay, no, thank you for answering that.
Yep, that works. Paul O'Neill, SEH. There are 4 detention ponds as part of the overall project.
Okay.
2 of them are in phase 2. 2 of them are on phase, one is on phase 1A and one is on phase 1B. The site, the topography of the site drains generally from northeast to southwest. And so the pond as part of phase 1A is the largest pond on the entire project. And so it will be oversized for phase 1A and can handle phase 1B's additions to it as well as phase 1C once those come on. The road will drain down to it, and so by phasing it this way, it will have a result that pond, just building it for the full development of this pond, will over detain for these first users.
So the water from the existing homes in the adjacent neighborhood, they don't drain in that direction too, do they?
They do not drain
Okay.
to this site. I believe they drain generally the same way and to the west.
Okay. Now, I just also, I live in Mesa Meadows, and I have a neighbor whose basement or crawl space gets flooded, and he had to get a sump pump, and I'm not quite sure why that happened. However, that's why I'm kind of curious how this water flows and how, if something were to happen, how it may impact homes that are already in place in the neighborhood next door. So it sounds like this retention pond should be able to handle 1A, 1B, and 1C, but it also sounds like you're going to build another pond in 1B?
There's an extension of 1B in that kind of that southern skinny open space there that will tie itself to phase 1A.
Okay,
Or to the 1A extension.
okay. And where's the, so I'm guessing, because we were talking about there being a trail around the whole phase, where would that trail be if there's the detention pond there?
It runs around the top of the detention pond.
Okay.
Kind of the berm of the detention
Okay.
pond.
Mhm.
And then continues on.
Okay. No, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Did you have any other follow-up to Nicole's presentation?
No, I don't engineering-wise, I can for questions like this. I'll let Glenn speak to them.
Yeah, Glenn, if you'd like to address the board, please do so now.
Good evening, I'm Glenn Roselle, now from Colorado, living in Durango. And my partner, Jeff Jorgensen, is with us from Arizona on Zoom. And he and I would both like to thank the board and staff for all that you do, sometimes twice. And rising interest rates and higher costs, I don't have to get into the details, but we appreciated the approval, 47 lots past May. But over the summer, the money lined up to those 47 lots went away. And so we had to adjust. And we feel comfortable with this plan moving forward, even in an uncertain environment. But we're ready to go. With a green light, we're ready to move forward and build what we talked about. We are still looking to integrate the home building effort. We will keep building homes, not just selling lots. And we hope to hit it hard through the winter. Corey Gossman will be our inspector, contractor this winter. Hope to be in a position to lay asphalt and concrete as soon as spring arrives, and building homes next summer. I'm here to answer any questions, and again, thank you for all you do. We are on the same page with staff. We're not asking for any additional concessions. We're we appreciate all the work that you've done, and we think we can move forward with the improvement agreement with staff recommendations.
Additionally, Ms. Pinto, there's two conditions before findings as part of the planning recommendations. Do you agree with both those findings and the conditions?
Yes.
Before I open it up for public comment, I'm assuming that there's going to be quite a bit of public comment. I would like to get through it and avoid this back and forth discussion. So if I can have you, Katie, and Nicole just kind of jot down those questions, and we will get those questions addressed. So if you want to stick around, you might have to answer some questions. All right, so I will go ahead and open it up for public comment. If you would like to address the board, please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised on the concessions that the developer is making and has agreed to. I appreciate that as a citizen. I think that's great. I understand that real estate market conditions are changing, as they always do, and we need to reevaluate timelines for development. So I get that part. I was going to talk about some of the other things that it sounds like they've agreed to regarding collateral amounts, payments, and obligations as set forth in the original agreement from April 19, 2022. I guess what I really want to implore is that you hold them to that. It sounds like they've agreed to that for the most part. There are some concessions in there. I hope that we as a town have kind of learned our lessons on some of these developments. Nothing personal. This is kind of in general for all developments that are coming up. Because we want to protect ourselves as a town. We really do. And we've got some major issues now that we have to deal with. That's going to be a big challenge, and I hope to minimize those going forward. So please hold them to all of the collateral obligations that they've agreed to. I believe that if a developer has faith in their projects, that they will agree to what's best for the town that they're doing their development in, as well as making them a successful, profitable endeavor as well. The other concerns I have are the water rights. I think you need to work through that. That was one of my lists. The Army Corps of Engineer permits that I think they need to get. The stormwater permits from the Colorado Department of Health that they may still need to get. Obviously, some of this has changed in the last, sounds like 24 hours, so I'm not privy to any of that. HOA responsibilities. I would ask a question. It's my understanding in the state of Colorado that the developer, until such time as they reach 51% of sold properties, that the developer is responsible for all obligations in the HOA. So I want to make sure you're aware of that and hold them to that as well. Regarding fees and improvements and things that they're going to be responsible for. The question I have kind of on that is, will that then carry over into phase 1B, 1C? How is that going to be addressed? Because if it becomes less than 51% of the first phase, does it drop out as the parent on the HOA for the next phase, or does that start over again? So there's some little quirky things in there on how he's doing this in phases, the monies that are going to be collected. Mailboxes, I didn't see where they're going to put the mailboxes, not that it really matters to me so much. It has a bit of a traffic impact, I think, for me, living on Louisiana. And then the last thing is, I live near the corner of Louisiana, Hickory, and Magnolia. And right now, that is kind of a little bit of a crazy intersection. People shoot out of Magnolia. There is no stop sign there currently. And they make a right turn there without stopping. Also coming up on Hickory, people have learned not to stop coming up Louisiana onto Hickory because there is no, they can see cross traffic. And then the people coming down Hickory, turning onto Louisiana, there's no stop sign there either. So adding one stop sign at their new intersection is a start, but we're gonna need two more, in my opinion. That needs to be a four-way stop, because you've got kids that play in that open area there, and right now, cars are shooting every which way out of there because there's no legitimate stop signs. So I would ask that the developer put in 3 stop signs, Magnolia, Hickory, and the new one at Louisiana. But all in all, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I wish the developers good luck on their project. We need housing. Hopefully the builds will be somewhat reasonable in cost, as he said in the past. So good for him, and let's move forward.
Would anybody else like to address the board?
Hi, Marion Tone, 1495 County Road 526, Bayfield, Colorado. We've had a couple of discussions, both with the town staff and the developer over this change and stuff. And he's agreed to put in a no-climb fence along the northern boundary, which is basically the intervening boundary between our family's ranch and the development site, so we're happy about that. I believe there's also a fence on the eastern boundary that was already put in previously. So that'll address our concerns about crossover activity from the development site. It's my understanding that that's not going to go into the spring, so my first question is to see how that's handled in the conditions, because he's not able to put it in this fall. Wherever we are right now.
Not even technically winter yet.
In the cold.
The fence, and they've developed dust control measures that we talked about, so I want to make sure that those got included in the final conditions. And Nicole very kindly sent me all that documentation, but I don't know that, I can't remember if that was included well enough in there to be obvious. Then the second thing that concerns us is that over on the eastern side of the subdivision that's not being developed now, the white square that's on the map. So there's not only the kind of lateral ditch issues that don't affect this phase 1, but will be required to be addressed in the future, but there's also a private ditch that runs from the Tone property north of the eastern side there, kind of Caterpillar over to the eastern side. The Tone property kind of goes in upside down out. Thank you. The Tone property kind of goes in upside down out, if I may, here. And so there's a ditch that roughly runs across here. So I just want to make sure that it's properly addressed in the conditions, because it's not going to be in the final plat now, to make sure that, that water still gets to the point where it comes deep in the future. So I think as long as as a personal matter, I don't think we've got the water to serve any future development. There was some discussion of that earlier. I still don't think we have the water to serve future developments. Like I said, when we first considered this annexation, we keep getting notices that we have to turn off our sprinklers in July, so I don't see how there's more water to serve development, but you guys make that decision back when we annex the property. So, thank you.
I just want to make sure that I clarify regarding the private ditch. You said that, what do you want them to do? What do you?
The agreement I think we have with the developer is that an alternative underground route will be provided, because I don't think it can be rerouted, in a square angle. So I think the condition is to just ensure that there's no interruption to that water.
And so would you want your engineer to approve it? Would you like to review it? I just want to clarify what you're asking. Yeah.
Yes, so the ditch ditch company, I think the term was that the ditch company would have to approve any changes to the channel lateral.
Okay.
It runs north-south through there. And I think that's the private, because it's not necessarily a ditch company person, it has to be a private engineer's review of that ultimate project.
Just want to make sure we have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll circle back and answer these questions. I just want to open it up for anybody else that would like to speak.
I'm still Paul Patterson, I still live on Bayfield Parkway. I do have one question. On the north, you're saying there's going to be a trail around the whole thing? Is this okay if I ask questions?
So you can ask your question, and then we'll come back and answer all the questions.
Okay, I'd like to know, how big is that trail, how wide is that trail? And will there be fencing then between the trail, okay, so there's a fence along the north end. Will there be another fence, say, for the people who have houses? So would the trail be between two fences? Okay.
There she is.
It's like, you were sitting for a long time there.
I would just like to make the remark, I believe Mr. Marcel is doing a great job. He's worked with the Ludwigs to no end. He's done everything that's been requested, and I think he's a real asset to builders.
Thank you.
Any other comment?
I would hope. Do I have to say my name?
Yep, name and address for the record, please.
604 Magnolia Court. I would hope the traffic, the speed limit stuff is consistent. My neighborhood's Mesa Meadows, and like the one entrance is 25 miles an hour, the other entrance is 20. So just like make it consistent through all the neighborhoods, and I hope that neighborhood would be consistent with, pick a speed limit. And with that, going off the stop signs, I agree with that other gentleman. That intersection has just the one stop sign now, and I could foresee that being an issue with all the upcoming traffic if you don't make it into a four-way stop. And then with that, with again the signage, like, I don't know how y'all put the signs in the ground, but like use concrete, because a lot of the signs, even in that other development, Clover 7's development, like the signs are all tilted sideways already, because they were like, I don't know how they were, but it's like a couple of them been fixed, and some of the school signs were fixed, but it's like, it seems like when you guys, or whoever's putting the signs in, they're inconsistent heights, and some of the signs are like, the stop sign's like right here at my face, and if you're walking along the sidewalk, like you can hit the side of it, or they're super high, so just a consideration of that stuff. And then my only other thought was the, I don't know where it was with the yard requirements, because I know in Mesa Meadows, we're required to have a tree and 25% grass and all that good stuff. With whatever the HOA is being developed, because of all the drought and water issues and junk, like consider like the drought tolerant planning and maybe not having a grass requirement, maybe just xeriscape type stuff as the development goes along or whatever. Those would be my thoughts and concerns and questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have,
I have one more question. My question is Road B going to be a requirement of the final plat? And that's the road on to Mustang. That seems to me to be a deal breaker for me. You've got to put that road in. So if it's going to be agreed upon and that's part of it, great. I just want to make sure that that road B is included in the development of phase 1A. Thank you.
Road D.
Yeah, the one that goes up. It's important.
Okay, you want to?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it.
Okay.
So I'll start with Mr. Blanchard's. So kind of talked about, say, Army Corps. So Army Corps is going to get involved in the phase 2 because that's where the irrigation is. And so when they get to phase 2, they do have to get the Army Corps. They've been communication with the Army Corps. And so that's already in process and will be required in that phase two. They are required to get stormwater permits through the state of Colorado, and we do enforce that. So HOA, I guess Glenn's gonna have to weigh in a little bit on this, but Mesa Meadows HOA is one HOA. And so even though it's built in phases, the HOA was not turned over to the residents until they had the consensus, so the developer oversaw that HOA. Clover Meadows has an HOA for each individual phase. I think from staff's perspective, Mesa Meadows HOA having one for the whole development makes more sense than, because they work better together than having multiple HOAs. So that would be what we request, one HOA, and that the developer carries the responsibility of the HOA until the ownership is there for the whole project.
What if the phases change though dramatically? How would that affect the existing HOA?
Well, there wouldn't be one until you have, so if he only has 81 lots, then 42 lots he would have an HOA. So no matter how the phases are broken up, he's only got approval for 81 lots. He'd have to go start the process almost at the beginning again to get more than 81 lots.
So the developer in this case is liable until he reaches 42 lots?
Correct.
Okay.
No lots development, because I know those are actually closer to phase 1C, so I'll let the developer address for the phase 1A, no lots will be located. And then in terms of the stop sign on Louisiana Hickory Magnolia, I'll say we might need to just talk with the engineers a little bit more on the traffic study. They did do a traffic study. Louisiana right now does not have a stop sign through Mesa Meadows until you get to that Hickory. So like Louisiana where it hits the western Hickory, Louisiana's not a stop sign, so it's only two-way at that location as well. Just like Mars only has a Louisiana and Fox Farm have stop signs and Mars does not. So I think we'll have to kind of discuss this because sometimes if it's not warranted, we should be putting in stop signs. They are a traffic control device. So we'll just need to further that. But if we see that there's a warrant, then we'll ask for all three. If not, we'll receive the two right now. But we'll be continuing that conversation with the developer. And then road D is required to connect to Mustang as part of phase 1A. And then this cone, if the no climb fence is correct along her property line. I think in terms of timing, we're gonna wanna see those improvements before we really start issuing POs for buildings. So I'll have the developer kind of address that, but we do wanna see these improvements all in place. We would consider that an improvement before we would start allowing people to move into that facility. Dust control is required as part of the state stormwater permit, so it's just a matter of us enforcing that, and hopefully we will have a code enforcement officer before this project really kicks off that can do that enforcement. So it's already a requirement, it's just a matter of making sure it's being enforced. Eastern side of the subdivision, Campbell Lateral, so again, the private ditches, as well as the Campbell Lateral are part of phase 2. So right now, that's not, as far as I understand, he's not proposing to touch any of that and leave it in place until he moves into phase 2. And then those will have to be addressed at that time. But I believe they do have a plan for all of that as part of their preliminary plan. Again, just moving a little bit on that. And then just definitely we have the water disturb development. And then she's just answering Katie's questions about the private engineer review. And then Paul's question about the trail. Yes, there's a trail that's gonna go around the entire project site, the whole thing. Town requires a minimum of 6 feet, and the trail is supposed to be 6 to 8 feet, depending on the location, so it will be provided trail. And there will be a fence on the exterior side of that trail where it's all agriculture area, as well as on that western edge where it's going to be adjacent to the Mason Meadows subdivision. The fence will be on the Mason Meadows side of the trail, and the trail will be on the new development side of that fence. Does that answer that question?
And then Phyllis was just a compliment. And then I didn't get the,
Amanda Kehoe.
and so again, she talked about speed limit signs, so I'll refer to public works on that. And then also the additional stop signs, so we'll look into that. And then the signs should be completed, yes, when we did this over, Meadows Stage 7, it was determined that there was not completed those signs, so that's what we're going to fix, because that's part of our warranty inspection, so we haven't accepted those yet until they complete that, but yes, that's a requirement. And then the last one was the yard requirements with HOA. So the state did pass state statute a couple of years back now, in 2018 and 19, that prohibits HOAs from requiring grass to be installed on property and allows reserve space. So they cannot require turf in HOA in order for state statute.
Nicole, can you clarify though, they can require drought-resistant trees and shrubbery?
Yes.
Okay.
They have some state level of landscaping, and they also, HOAs have to now allow fake turf. You can't prohibit someone from putting in fake turf. So that answers that question. And I don't know if there's anything else you had.
I think you got everything that I had on my list.
Well, I'd like to say that it's a little past Thanksgiving, but I think everyone in this room should be grateful that they're not a landfill. But, yes, on the HOA, we envision one HOA, not per-phase. Answer that question. And, is there another?
The trail, you're gonna put it all the way around to the end?
No, just adjacent to the phase.
I think that it's not gonna go all the way.
Not phase 1A. So as the phases get built, control sections proposed to be built.
And yes, we do need to include the mailbox location. Good catch.
Do you know where those mailboxes are going at this point? Okay,
Most likely towards the entrance.
okay.
You have a spot off Mustang where it comes in there. You have benches identified and things, it seems like that would be
Right.
I suppose up to you all.
Okay, did that hit everybody's questions, concerns?
Nicole, I was thinking with the stop signs, even though a traffic study might not merit them, I think the neighbors in Mesa Meadows are so used to how they drive that having however many new homes are in Phase 1A coming in and now having cars coming, even though we're going to have one traffic stop there, it might be merited until it's proven not useful to put in more stop signs, just for the safety of all the kids in the neighborhood who aren't used to there being cars in that area either. And it sounds like there already is an issue with Magnolia, and I know there was a missing stop sign at Hickory. There was a three-way stop at Hickory and Clover, and I was like, someone has to stop there. But there had to be a stop sign, and there just wasn't one there. So sometimes I wonder if stop signs have been they were never put in, or they were removed, but I would recommend stop signs regardless of the traffic study until the neighbors come back and say they're no longer needed, because it's just a safety concern to me. That's just my opinion.
I had a question about, not specifically for you, more along the HOA and how that will work, just in regards to how Dove Ranch ended up. So, is there anything that we can put in our documentation that if everything went wrong and the developer went defunct, just like Dove Ranch did, that the homeowners that are currently there have to form an HOA? End of story.
Refer to town council
legally.
Because if we would have had that in place for Dove Ranch would have an HOA right now that we would be able to solve many of our our issues
That's why
with.
it's so important that at the outset, that we make sure we have significant and satisfactory collateral and security with regards to the project as it concerns 1A, 1B, 1C, each time it comes forward. And then we hold on to that collateral and security until the town is fully assured that all warranties are met and all development and public improvements have been completed.
Yes.
That is going to be very important during our negotiations on the subdivision improvement agreement to ensure that the town is properly protected.
I would just add to, I think something with Dove Ranch is there's a lot of private improvements that technically the homeowners are still responsible for, even if they don't have an HOA. An
Right.
HOA helps organize them.
Mhm.
But even if there's no HOA, they're not required to have one. They
Right,
still
it'll become a
fall into
civil
that
matter
development,
between-
And they're still responsible, not the town.
Yeah.
And that's something that, we may have to get to the point of reaching out to Dove Ranch. But
Sure.
the town doesn't take the responsibility on a private improvements just because an HOA goes away. It's just that they don't have one voice anymore, they have
Right.
81. Makes it more complicated.
I just want to follow up with the engineer on the discussion of the stop signs. Because I have a feeling this may come back as a condition for approval, and I want to,
Headed off at the pass?
yeah.
I don't know if I have a quick response to that. We had agreed to install the one
Right.
additional stop sign. If there are existing issues that are safety related, we'll have to look at that specifically to see if a four-way stop is warranted versus a two-way. Like Nicole was saying, you shouldn't throw up a stop sign just because somebody says you should throw up a stop
Okay.
sign. You need to look at it and make sure that it's warranted from either a functional requirement or a safety requirement.
Can you kind of give a little bit more detail on what you use to look at the warrant for a stop sign? Because I
So-
think it's not just the town making some.
Yep, and so typically, the warrant analysis is typically from a level of service analysis, not necessarily a safety issue per se. If you have a regular street with a four-way intersection, and there's stop signs on two sides, that shouldn't pose a safety issue if people are driving the speed limit, if kids aren't playing in the intersection. And so a lot of times, these warrant analyses relate to level of service, so how long are people stuck at that stop sign before they can go through? And so in the traffic study, it says, I think in this development, everything's level of service B or better. Basically, there's not a lot of vehicles to make you sit at that stop sign for 30 seconds to get where you're going. So if it's a specific safety-related issue, we'd have to look at that separately.
So I guess it's a four-way stop right now. And
Which intersection are we talking about?
Louisiana, Hickory Ridge, and Magnolia Court.
Okay.
It's
It's-
only, it's
yeah.
going to be a two-way per the agreement.
Maybe
And
I'm
currently,
confused.
right now, there's a two-way stop at Hickory in Louisiana, and people still pull up to close to the intersection and never stop. So, the stop sign we typically depend on the engineer's study for a traffic study, but a stop sign doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stop unless you have the marshal's office there
Just camped out.
camped out.
So, I mean, that's someone's personal choice if they choose to break the law, because a stop sign's a stop sign, but there is one already at that. So when we're saying we're adding one, there'll be one at each side, so we'll have a four-way crossing.
Yeah, we're adding a two.
Two.
It'd be two.
Oh, you're putting it on the inner. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't agree with that at all. Nope. I thought that this was gonna be at Magnolia, Hickory in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not in here?
No.
Okay, it's not in here. It's there. Okay.
Yeah.
Whew, so there will be two stop signs
There will
there.
be two,
There's
yeah.
one they're both on Louisiana, Because there's currently one at Louisiana in that
And
intersection.
they're gonna put a second one,
Okay, on the other side.
So it'll be a
Okay, yeah.
Two-way stop.
Will still be.
Okay,
full movement.
okay. So if you're coming off of Magnolia Court or Hickory, you don't have to stop because it's not a four-way stop.
Just like right now,
Okay.
Louisiana in the western loop of Hickory only has Hickory stopping.
Yeah, that's just-
Louisiana does
Yeah.
not.
Okay, but there's two stop signs. Okay, no,
There will
that
be,
makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just pulled up a map, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, what am I misunderstanding? So there is one stop sign, even though it sounds like people are
People are
running it.
blowing through
But
it, so-
again,
Still, yeah.
and when you hit the neighbor's kid and you're the one who ran the stop sign and broke the law, like, I'm so sorry that you blew it.
To add to a new stop sign to make sure people see it a little bit better, and so we are probably want to consider that when we're putting in a new stop sign.
Right.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
At a minimum, to get people's attention back to the different.
Okay.
I think Glenn wants to put in a really nice big round.
No.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I just didn't want to get hung up on that,
They're
and,
very dangerous.
Oh, my God.
okay. I think we've addressed the questions and concerns and comments. I would like to go ahead and close the public hearing and resume our regular scheduled meeting. We will keep Tom out in the hallway for this one, and we will open up our land use action agenda. Do we have any final public input on this topic? If not, I would go ahead and move on to our 2022-09 Mustang Crossing Final Plat Amendment. And I have a question. I'm pretty good. I really want to give the developer props on this for really working with our residents and kind of coming to some agreements on things. In the agreement, you talked about having accepting the blue and the red language, or the red.
Well, the blue that.
The blue was their side. Okay.
Yeah, so there were some blue comments that were fine.
Okay.
Anything that I provided additional comment on, except that red over the blue.
And is that, I mean, I don't see all of those comments in the conditions. Is that something, do we need to add that
So
as a condition?
you can, I guess the way I was thinking of it is you're accepting staff's recommendation, but I think it wouldn't hurt.
I would like to add that because
And then I guess go ahead and add that, well, the collateral, the only two that are a little bit different now are the water and the Clover Drive now, because we have agreed to allow him to just pay for anything for water and for the intersection improvement. So I think you do need to add another condition for that,
okay.
if you're accepting staff recommendation.
Okay, so we could add F, if this were to go to approval, we could add F and incorporate staff's,
Comments from the FIA as well as the new adjusted comments on the intersection and the water to allow them to just pay for phase one A.
okay. Do we have, I'd like the board to go ahead and weigh in on your feelings on,
I've asked all my questions.
I'm good.
yeah, you good?
I think
Yeah.
it's.
I just
think
want to
it's a
be
good-
very
Yeah.
clear on what the motion you're making, and so that it's
No,
in the
I'm not
minutes.
No,
Sure.
that,
No.
that one I'm not
Yeah.
100%
Nope, I was
clear.
trying to take notes
So-
and I
Yeah.
did not take
So
them.
Because they
if-
keep saying red comments, and the only thing red is.
Yeah,
link
I-
above.
No,
I'm not
it's
seeing- I'm not
in
seeing
the
red
other
either.
packet.
Yeah, this
It's
packet.
a ton of stuff, yeah.
So is there something that you can just provide in your PowerPoint that makes it clear? Because I think developer,
Actually craft one for you real quick, and then you can just,
Well, I think, we would need to add condition F, and it would be to accept the staff recommendation in the SIA, and then the discussion you had with the developer over water and impact fees.
so that you can just pay for the existing phase one A.
Got it? Do we hit, is that?
Okay, hold on, I think I got it.
I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion from the board.
Jesus, okay. Let's see if I can, I'll say it really slowly, Michael, in case you can hear that I missed something. Okay, so the staff would like to approve the Mustang Crossing Phase 1A plat amendment with the following findings and conditions findings, A, B, and C, conditions as written, A through E, also adding an F, which would incorporate staff's comments in red in the SIA, and discussion of water and impact fees for just Phase 1A at this time. Water and infrastructure, not impact, I'm sorry. And intersection infrastructure fees for Phase 1A.
I don't think you started that with make a motion, so can you
You
just
didn't.
add?
Oh, whoops.
No, you don't have to do it again. You can just,
So that is all, making a motion.
I will second the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Mustang Crossing Phase 1A Final Plat Amendment with the following findings and conditions. Findings A through C, conditions A through E, including an F, incorporating staff comments in the SIA, and discussion of water and intersection infrastructure fees in Phase 1A at this time.
Second.
all right. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Whew, let's get Tom back in the room, shall we? Whew. All right. That was a lot.
Can we make the next ones easier?
No, I'm glad we added that.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I'm not upset that we added it.
Okay, we're going to move on to our action agenda items. Do we have any public input pertaining to items 7A through G on the agenda? Seeing none, I would move on to our Regional Housing Alliance funding agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the town included $11,250 in the 2023 budget that was adopted November 1st. And the other, in the IGA, it's very clear that it's subject to annual appropriations for 2024 and 2025. The agreement, we went through the agreement, RHA attorney has went through the agreement, and this is kind of the final for your consideration and executed by the mayor.
Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Regional Housing Alliance RHA funding agreement that authorizes Mayor Tarkington to execute the IGA for $11,250.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Awe?
Nay.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
4 in favor, 1 against.
All right, moving on to Resolution 549, the Eight Corners banner policy.
So I'm sure my staff just wants to pull their hair out every time somebody wants to banner up on the fence. But, you know, our goal is to reduce sign pollution. And actually, when I got here, there were just signs everywhere. For a while, I just said, put a commercial sign up. I think Bayfield Realty, I think some other commercial businesses put a banner up, but this is during COVID, so it's kind of like there's a lot of forgiveness. But I think what we would like to do is manage that a little bit better and have kind of a consistent message about putting banners up. I also think we need to deal with, I don't have any issue with the Frosty Craft Fair, but I think we've got to deal with people that just throw banners and signs and paste things all over town. And, you know, I've had one of the organizers say, well, just let me know what intersection it is, I'll go clean it up. And I've told the organizer, and I've taken pictures of it for the organizer of the trash that just ended up in some open space. So
That's kind of because they're a little bit like homemade signs and they're just getting tattered in the weather. And I mean, it's, yeah. It's,
Nobody ever takes them down.
yeah,
Makes
so
them prettier.
so
have a sign ordinance.
well, you have a sign ordinance, but not necessarily in public right of way, because actually you're not allowed to put any signs in the public right of way. But I do think it is important to be able to put up, the Pine River Seniors had a craft fair. It's nice to have that up. Pine River Shares has a couple events. Be Frank has a couple events.
Be put up a banner.
Yeah, Beep, when they have registration, there's certain things that, for nonprofits, I think it's important to have that ability. And CDOT kind of gave me their language that it's okay, but keep in mind, no commercial signage up there. So this kind of covers all of that Eight Corners intersection, including that portion of Buck Highway as well. And then after that, I think when some of these signs go up, we need to really contact the organizer, say, wait a minute, there's got to be a limit in public right of way. And the last thing you want is your town manager going out and plucking signs out all over and basically throwing them in the trash.
'Cause she will.
During a school board election, I was doing that because I felt like the election sign should not have been in our public right of way. But anyway, this kind of gives us some consistent message to people regarding banners in that eight corners area.
Questions, comments?
I've never lived in a town that didn't have some sort of banner approval that has to be done through the town before you post it, so I don't have any issues with it.
No, and I like that you're going to have contact information so that you can call and let them know, come deal with this.
Right.
Is there like an or else? Like what happens if they don't come and take down after 2 days, or they don't?
I do walk around with pliers and I
go
take
gut
them
it
down.
down.
And then I do have a couple nonprofits that I have notified. I had to go take your banner down, and I said, the next time you want to have it put back up, it's going to take an approval process, and I'm not going to be as quick to approve it when I can't get you to take it down, and I've got to send staff or somebody else after a banner, or it's flopping in the wind, or all over, or in traffic somewhere, because that's what happened to one of them. So
Okay.
I think if it becomes a real big problem, then we can always add
Say, no more.
a fee that if you don't do it.
I mean, like I said, if it's not a CDOT issue with traffic, vision, and stuff like that, I'm okay with the nonprofit. I'm okay with this procedure. They gotta come ask for permission, it's gotta be a professional, nice sign, and they gotta take it down after their event. I'm
There's nothing
I'm
wrong
okay with that, but like I said, I would revisit this if it just starts becoming a problem.
Yeah, I just think we got too many signs in our right-of-way, period.
Period.
well, I agree with that.
And
right
I'm
now.
like, it needs to stop. I mean, there was the one guy there, he was chaining his signs to our, like, street signs and stop signs and stuff. It's like, really? You're a private company. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's
Well,
why.
first of all, they should not be
Yeah,
on
private
the
companies won't
traffic
be
control signs.
allowed.
That is one thing that I had a little discussion with the Frosty Craft Fair people. I said, you'll never put that up on our traffic control signs again, but just for a week, I'll let you do it. So I agree with you. They should not be on our traffic control signs.
So they won't be across that intersection
No.
anymore? Okay, we'll make that off.
Or middle of the
off limits.
roundabout.
No,
and
not
having-
in the roundabout
having-
either.
Yeah,
you
middle of the
know,
roundabout's pretty common.
Having this
That was
resolution
a
will
busy
help us
weekend
to-
for somebody.
I mean, I would be curious to see how the vote goes, how the board feels.
I just think we should go farther, but that's my opinion.
I
I
mean,
think we should go farther if there's an issue or if this isn't sufficient. And I have no qualms about going further if that's the case, but I would like to put it in place right away. It's already prepared and ready to go, so can't see that we can't make an amendment later.
Do we need to designate where they can have?
this is just specifically pertaining to the Eight Corners, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is on that fence line.
Okay, so we might need to look at other places where,
I mean,
agree.
we have a
Yes.
sign policy for the rest of town. I mean, they're
They
just
should
putting them
just
up.
not be allowed. I mean, they're not allowed at all.
okay.
But I think, after COVID, there was a lot of, forgiveness. Just go ahead and get it up because we understood, what the community was going through. But I've kind of come to a point where, especially this last, that it becomes trash, and it becomes trash in somebody else's backyard too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think if they are posting them in other locations, that they can be directed to this policy now and say, well, we do have this one location, and if you're willing to follow the rules, then you can
And
put
you're
it
a
there. And if
nonprofit,
you're not,
and
then
you're-
too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, then I would entertain a motion.
Do you not take public comment?
I asked for that up front. Yeah. Either way, I could go either way, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 549, Eight Corners banner policy.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Awe,
Yay.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
all in favor.
Okay, we'll see how that one goes. All right, Resolution 550, Highway User Tax Fund Report.
So this is an annual report. It's due February 1st of the year of the following the year of the report. Jeremy went through, made his edits. We really wanted to post edits for our slurry seal and some of the other improvements we made for 2022. The CDOT only allows in this report if you do an improvement of a half an inch overlay, and of course, those are not a half an inch. So anyway, the only ones that we could update were the Park Street, which actually did not have a thickness at all, so we just updated that one. But anyway, this is basically transparency. People pay fuel tax when they go to the gas station, and so this is what you're collecting fuel tax on in these certain specific streets, so.
All right, do we have any questions on that? Okay, I would entertain a motion on Resolution 550.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 550 and authorize Mayor Tarkington to execute the signature sheet.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Awe,
Yay.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
all in favor.
Moving on to our Resolution 551, our Utility Relief Fund.
I realize that this is before the actual new utility rates will be considered. But on the other hand, if you decide to table 552, at least I can tell people that there would be a utility relief fund, not knowing necessarily what those fees will be. In 2022, we have $2,271 of relief that was requested. Not all those coupons will be used this year, from what I can tell. So I'm assuming in 2023 it'll be at about $2,500 to $2,700 utility relief. This does come out of your garbage fund because you have a fund balance that doesn't necessarily is restricted by any means. So anyway, this is basically gives the utility relief another year for 2023. And it is a good program. I think our goal is to get people on LEAP, if nothing else. And actually, our interview that we had with DOLA regarding our affordable housing, they do like to see, they were impressed that we had this type of program, so.
All right, any questions, comments?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 551.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Awe,
Yay.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
all in favor.
Moving on to Resolution 552, our utility rates.
So all of these rates were reviewed September 6th. The only thing that got reduced after September 6th was GFL's rate. I assumed that before their 90 days expired, they would come in and ask to the 4% for every year that they had the ability to ask for, but they did not. So the March 3rd letter I got for a 4% increase is the only thing that would be eligible for our rates. And the second can, typically we've been charging 10% on top of that for admin. We were not charging the 10% on the second garbage can. And it's still, we still have to manage that can, just like the first garbage cart. So that one is up about 14%, but that's the 4% that GFL added, and then the 10% we add for admin cost. Everything else is exactly how we discussed it in September 6th.
Katie, I have a question for you.
Yep.
So I know these fees include the cost of mosquito control. I know there's another item about the disease control that we're going to talk about after this.
It's separate.
So you signed a contract
Yep.
that basically has a escalating increase, and that includes that escalating increase
Okay.
for the mosquito control.
Okay. So if we needed more mosquito control.
And I'll be very honest with you, when we get to the next topic,
Okay.
I probably have a little more that I'd like to add regarding that, unless you'd like to hear it now.
Well, I think since this resolution includes, unless we've already decided it and that it's not going to impact us approving this resolution, anything that you're going to share with us on that mosquito control. Because if we need more mosquito control and we're now voting to pass this resolution, I just want to make sure that the fees are appropriate.
So vector disease control and the representative that we work with directly, Rihanna, Rihanna Nunn, she has been really good to work with, and they have increased their service at our request, and of course they've added that into our contract.
Okay.
And I thought what was really great is they provided trapping information. Keep in mind, they're looking for Culex mosquitoes, not necessarily every mosquito that you're dealing with at your home. I would really like to have basically have her come back just before mosquito season and talk about what would happen if we do need extra coverage. Maybe it's for the other mosquitoes that are not necessarily trapped in our area. And keep in mind, we still have a lot of agricultural land, sitting water that we may not be able to control. She was really good. We had some complaints. In Mesa Meadows, we had her test basically the properties that we felt were a problem, and she did not find a problem, but she did find a problem in another private property that she said she wanted to treat, but it's still, that private property has to give that permission.
Okay. Now, I guess, we had a death due to West Nile virus this past year, and we have had West Nile virus in Bayfield in the past.
Yes.
So I guess when it comes to mosquitoes, and since there's no cure for West Nile, I just want to make sure that, and they were crazy in Mesa Meadows this year. There was no standing water in my yard.
We had
but,
more water this year too, though.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that if that's something that we need to consider, to pass that along to keep our residents safe for just the mosquito control that we're doing, that we're doing everything that we can.
And unfortunately, mosquitoes don't take a look at the municipal boundary.
Maybe we need to do some education and outreach to non-municipal folks so that they understand that they could be contributing to the mosquitoes that could be killing all of us.
Now that's a good idea.
Anyway, thank you for humoring me.
All right, so we're ready for a motion on Resolution 552, if there's no further questions or comments.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution, I can't say that word today, 552, utility rates effective January 1st, 2023.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Awe,
Yay.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
As far as item F is concerned, I think we would like to have Rihanna come in and
So I will try to make sure we're scheduling her probably around May, kind of just before. I think she's been very helpful, and there's also I'm sorry, just the name has slipped me, another official that has attended a couple of meetings here in Bayfield. And, you know, they want to provide support for mosquito control, but then there's also that, you know, that balance of how much. So, but she's been really good to work with, so.
Okay. So that's just, we will get that scheduled. Next item is the IGA with La Plata County and Town of Bayfield Senior Center.
Well, the county decided to give us $4,500. In the past, prior to COVID, the county paid for somebody to come up, set tables up on Wednesday and Friday, not the Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but on Wednesday and Friday, they paid somebody to come up, set up, and then break down at the senior center. So with this, we told them we'd be happy to hire the person that we hired, and that person could do it for us, and they've decided that they would be more than happy to reimburse us for that. So it's about $4,500 divided up in a 6-month period. We'll request in May for the first 6 months, and then we'll request, or May or June, we'll request in December for the last 6 months. And then there's all the other things that they have in that agreement. We've reviewed it. I've requested changes, and they've made changes within reason that I could agree with. So this is ready for a signature or your action, I should say.
Finally, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So we need a motion on executing the IGA.
I'd be happy to make a motion to authorize Mayor Tarkington to execute the IGA with La Plata County and the Town of Bayfield over senior center services compensation.
Second.
All right, any further comment? Roll call.
Trustee Ah,
Yay.
trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Mayor, or trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, so we have our employee party on December 9th. If you did not RSVP to that, please get that in. Do we have any board reports, any updates? All right. Planning Commission meeting coming up December 13th, our other town board meeting for the month, December 20th. And Katie, did you have anything you wanted to add? Our holiday closures are listed.
I just want to say that we do have 28 applications for town marshal. I'll
Wow.
be meeting with the marshal's office staff this week and discuss, first of all, the rules of hiring and what can be shared and what should not be shared, and then discuss, how we would like to go forward. So basically finding some comfort level in the staff about, going forward. I have reviewed, they did basically categorize them. I have reviewed the first 6. I think that we do have some good applicants. So anyway, a little bit more information coming at your next meeting.
All right, great, good to know. All right, any other comments? I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. It is 8:23. Whew.